figure it out. Oh, it is. It was, okay. The hidden treasure. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Question 1. When we first met, did you ever imagine that we would build something together? Okay, so you totally said that we're probably going to ask each other similar questions. We definitely are asking each other similar. I'm like, already just first question. I'm pretty sure that was similar. I think when we first met, I feel like I remember us vibing and connecting pretty instantly. Like, the thing that brought us together, we were in each other's orbit.
Yes.
I was building Black and Brown Founders. You came on the map doing Founders of Color. We eventually linked up and we're like, we should just talk and see what's happening. What are you doing? What am I doing? And I remember just in the first couple minutes of that phone call, I'm like, she's definitely gonna be my best friend. We were just on the same page.
Yes.
I remember from day one, you had been thinking about ecosystem. At that time, I still was really focused in on the community that I was trying to help, that specific group that had gravitated to Black and Brown Founders. But quickly I came to sort of understand and see the big play, especially, which I would say, okay, so from that conversation, no, but I would say when I came to Atlanta, which maybe would have been a year later or something, and you and I were like, oh, let's get together,
Yeah.
hang out, let's talk about some stuff. And we were whiteboarding all of these ideas, and we were like, this is how I see things, here's my vision, here's what I think, did you know this? Here's some data, here's some statistics.
Any idea how it would come together?
Exactly. We were like that picture of the dude with the pins on the board and the strings, and then I think that was when I knew that we were gonna do something together. At that point, I'm like, we're gonna, we're gonna do something together.
I knew that there was something there that time we met in San Francisco, the first time we met in person.
Yes.
You remember? And you're like, we should just merge our companies. I was like,
yes.
I can't even. I was like, the fact that we already had trust enough.
Coming on a little strong. Me?
We really should think about it. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So early on, there were indicators that the trust was there.
Yeah.
Even if we didn't necessarily know where it would go.
Totally. But I think it's also a sign that the kind of people that you and I are, that the first time we would meet in person, and I'm like, we should merge our company.
Totally.
Let's do the most intimate thing you could possibly do in the world of business the first time we've met. Sounds right. Okay.
Okay, is it my turn?
Yes.
Okay. What's been the hardest part? What comes easily? That question is in there. Of course it is. It's totally in there. So we both have to answer, right?
Yes.
So the hardest part, especially early on, was getting folks to trust.
Yes.
And because you and I had come to trust so quickly, I don't know if we thought it would be easier than it was, and that people would get kind of the collective, the power of the collective, because we were already so bought in.
Yeah.
I think I may have assumed that it would have been easier than it was to get folks completely invested early on. And I think those early calls that we had were how can we get people to trust the process? Mm-hmm. How can we get people to trust each other? That for me was the hardest part. But once we were able to get over the hump with the manifesto and have a collective win, that was game changing.
That's true. I actually remember that activity of us building the manifesto as a thing that, I think that actually helped me understand just in general that giving people something to focus around, an actual activity that we were working on together, and the manifesto was something that was super low stakes.
Yeah.
And it also naturally acted as a filter of okay, who was bout it, yes, and who was tinkering at the edges a little bit.
100%. And it forced us to really think through who we are, and it's still relevant. I mean, we haven't veered from that manifesto, and it's a point of clarity. If we ever veer too far, we're no, the manifesto, this is who we are. We are unapologetically Black. we have a very forward-thinking notion of what prosperity looks like for Black people. And for me, that process was very grounding, and the manifesto, the language has been really grounding.
What do you feel like has been easy though?
The love.
Yeah.
It's so easy. It's so easy.
Easy for you.
Well,
Not easy for everybody.
maybe.
Dare I say easy for us? but
Yeah,
not for
easy,
everybody.
easy for us. Yeah, the love part is the easy part because I come from a large family on both sides. We both grew up like in the Philadelphia area, which I think is also quite ironic.
Testament.
Yes,
Thing.
indeed, indeed. But both of my parents were from North Philadelphia. And so my mom had greater than a dozen siblings. My dad had 9 siblings. I had 30 cousins over this side. And, so I just grew up with a lot of cousins. And that's just how I feel in VIA. I feel like I'm with my family. I feel that I'm with my cousins. And we can laugh and we can joke and we can be serious and we can hold one another accountable. So maybe that's why it's easier for me. But that's the part that has been easy. And most are easy to love. Some have been a bit more challenging, but that's what community is about.
That's true.
It's about making sure that we hold everyone in the circle and no one gets too far out on the margins and just kind of reeling people back in. But that's the work. But for me, that's been the easy part. What do you think has been the easy part of building VIA?
Well, I'd say the easy part also, I would say, is the love. I think that I don't want to try to speak for you, but I would say that a lot of the ways that I show up and that the way that things kind of come to me, like I'm just so extroverted and I love people. And I think that seeing people come together and doing things together, it's like when people are like aligned and like we're all swimming in the same direction, like that is like a drug to me.
Yeah.
And so I think that us showing up and like creating a space that's like full of like love and care, and then watching people kind of get into formation and like start. So it's like we kind of created this space, and then it has created this like reinforcing like function of like, oh, people are like collaborating and co-creating and like being willing to try to, dare I say, make sacrifices on behalf of like the larger group. Like in the very early days when we had $0 of budget toward this, $0 of budget, and we were all volunteers, and we were all busy people running at least one company, maybe more than one company, and we would still show up and like try to make the manifesto happen or try to show up and have the conversation to figure out the thing. Like, I think that the love part definitely has been easy, and it just kind of feeds that part that just makes me want to like love even more.
Right. And when you see folks like organically loving on one another without us like forcing it or even trying to make it happen, that's the part that just fills me up, because it's happening organically. Like where we put a tremendous amount of intention is now like it's happening organically.
Yeah. I mean, like even now, I feel like when we're in the room with the group, I just have so many, like this week, I've had so many moments of just like wanting to just be in the corner, like, this is so nice. I just want to like watch something. So yeah, we're cheesy cornballs. Yeah. So there's that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Why do you think we were able to do, why do you think we were able to do so well together so early into our friendship? I think that there's like something that is like, it's like the thing that you can't really describe, where there's just like something in your spirit, in your soul, that like connects with something in my spirit and my soul. I also would say this, I think that you and I also really connected early on with the journey that we had even building the things that we were building before that. So we kind of talked about Black and Brown founders and founders of color. But you had your like fashion company before that, and I had my fashion company before that.
That's right.
And we were like also connecting on like, for whatever reason, things that had happened, and like so and such and such and this was on so. And that actually led me to this path. So I feel like we had, even before we knew each other, we had kind of been on these like parallel paths that like made us like destined to connect. And then when we did connect, it was like we've been able to see something in each other, because it's almost at times we're just like, oh, you're like the same person, but in a different body. That's right. Slightly different experiences, but also like not that different. Yeah, exactly.
And I also think that we're both nerds. Unapologetic nerds. And so we can geek out and go down rabbit holes and be like, oh my God, isn't this where no one else would?
What's the meaning of life and how do we build
oh my God, change? 100%.
Yes, exactly.
And we're both systems thinkers, and we don't mind kind of trying to engineer and figure it out. But the parallel path piece is real. Like even like where we grew up. Yeah, but I think we think about the world similarly, and we're both visionary in the ways that we approach our work. So there's nothing that really kind of confines our thinking. So when you like sync that up, it's dangerous.
Oh my gosh, but this is the other thing too, that I feel like there's so many stories of people like putting a visionary kind of like on a pedestal. Do you know what I mean? And I think that you and I believe something slightly different and have modeled it in a way where we can take turns being visionary. Like, I don't have to be in the driving seat all the time. You don't have to be in the driving seat all the time. It's like, okay, I'll drive this leg, and like you take the next leg. We'll pull off at the gas station. We'll switch off, and like then you got it. And I think that just also takes an immense amount of trust.
Yes. And even like the intention around like, what do we call ourselves? We had that conversation like, I don't think we should call ourselves co-founders, because if folks think that it's the Aniya and the Kelly show, they're not going to show up for the Aniya and Kelly show. The only way that they're going to show up is if they are mutually invested and we're just holding space.
Oh my gosh. And how many times I remember in the early days, I'm remembering a couple conversations where people would literally try to like, but this is the Aniya, and I was like, this is not. No. They were like, well, why don't you just decide? And we're like, that's not how we're working here. Like, everybody's deciding. Yeah. You also have responsibility. And I think it was like one of the first kind of projects that I started to really look and examine power in a different way. And like, because we were committed to like distributing and sharing power from day one, and just realizing how many of us are not used to stepping into a frame where that is true. We're just used to there being one leader or one decider, or maybe one very, very small group of people that are deciding. And I just believe that like the way forward is gonna involve everybody starting to grow and flex a muscle around like being in something equally and having equal weight and equal decisions. And not just like relying on one person, but it also means like different set of trade-offs. But
even the language that you introduced around a distributed network, and we still use that language today because it's true. Like that's how we make decisions. Even the conference today, you know, where folks were like, we're starting too early. We're like, okay, well let's change that.
Yeah, it's so true. We're so responsive.
I know, but that's like who we are because it's in the DNA of the organization.
You know, I feel like I sound like a broken record, but like bringing it back to people, like I think so much of this is like trying to get people to align, like be on the same page, decide to do something together, be willing to have each other's back and be willing to make sacrifices for each other, like be willing, like knowing and needing to go on their own journey of like self-betterment, but also being willing to know when the moments are coming that like you have to look beyond yourself to do something for the collective, and being able to move between those two things really seamlessly, like towards a goal that's for the greater good and like the kind of collective well-being of the group. And so solving that problem is very important to me, or at least coming up with a solution for the problem. Not saying it's the solution for the problem, but a way. And I just think that, speaking of gifts that we were talking about earlier, like I do think that love, joy, and connection, while we actually like make material change happen and allow even some small group of Black folks to experience the world in a different way, like, to me, would be worth it. It's worth it. Yeah.
Thank you for being my co-coach chair.
Oh my God. Thank you for being my Coco chair, org baby, mama, work wife.
Spouse.
Yeah. It's a special.
Muse.
Yeah. Oracle. Love you.